I will now walk you through the initial setup of Git on your computer. And for Windows users, I'll also show you how to use a command line interface called Git Bash. First, follow the written instructions for this exercise to download and install Git. For Windows, you will go to the Git download webpage provided, download the installer, and run the installation wizard. For macOS, open your terminal application and use it first to install Homebrew, which is a package manager that simplifies software installation for macOS. Then, you will use Homebrew to install Git through your terminal. For Windows users, click Next through the installation wizard, accepting all the default values. Notice you are installing something here called Git Bash. You can click Next through the rest of the dialogues and click Install at the end. When the installation is complete, let's go ahead and check this box here, uncheck this one, and then we'll take a look at Git Bash. Git Bash, as you can see, is another shell. In fact, macOS users would find this very familiar because it is essentially the same as the macOS terminal application. Bash originated as the default shell application for most Unix-based operating systems such as Linux and macOS. In macOS, the terminal application actually just provides an interface to Bash. So macOS terminal users, you don't need to install Git Bash because you're already using it. In comparison to Windows PowerShell and Windows Command Prompt, Bash is more similar in power to Windows PowerShell with more advanced features than Command Prompt. While it can be a matter of opinion which is better to use, there's at least one good practical reason that a Windows user may wish to learn Bash. It means that if you ever need to work in a Mac or Linux environment, you will already know how to use their shells. Also, if you are a macOS user, knowing about Git Bash for Windows means that if you at some point have to work in a Windows environment, as long as the Windows machine you are using has Git Bash, that means you can use it just like terminal. Git Bash for Windows is accessible from the right-click menu in File Explorer like this, which can be very useful. For macOS users, you can also do something very similar with terminal with some system configuration. In your system preferences, go to Keyboard, Shortcuts, Services, then check the box labeled New Terminal Add Folder. In the written instructions for this exercise, there is a link to an article that will give you a visual guide. Since I have Git Bash open, I will use it to verify my installation and configure Git. To test that Git is installed correctly, I will type git --version. This command should come back to you with the version of your Git installation. Next, set up the global configuration. I will type in git config --global user.name and then my name. For yourself, you should of course replace that with your own name and be sure to wrap your name in quotes. Next, type in git config --global user.email and then your email address. Of course, replace that with your own email. To check that you entered all this correctly, type git config --list. You should see here your name and email. If you see a colon here at the end, that means there's more, and you can press enter to see more. Or if you don't want to see more, simply type Q to be returned to the shell prompt.